Ladies and gentlemen, Big Harry News.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. And he's back. He's back. He's bad. He's black. I'm mad. Is that what they say? Lethal Weapon? Something like that?
I have no idea. But much like an EV, I had to recharge my batteries last night, and I very much appreciated being able to do it. I went to bed at like 9 or something.
Yeah.
It was great.
Well, what are we today? Wednesday? Is it Wednesday? Wednesday today. That means you and I have one left, which is Thursday this week. And Bomber's going to come and join us this week. There's nothing really that Bomber's got for us, but I was just chatting with him the other day, and I went, you haven't been on for a while. Do you want to come on before the end of the year? And he was like, yeah.
Cool.
And so Bomber will be coming on for no particular reason, although we are expecting Taxpayers Union to perhaps put their campaign out by tomorrow. And so there might be some stuff to talk about once that literally the worst kept secret with dozens of people actually posting and knowing about what they're talking about finally gets released, Chewy.
Can I just say, I'm sure you guys spoke on this last night, but this whole Willis versus Richardson fucking grudge match, meeting up in the squared circle
Octagon,
nonsense.
yep. Great.
Can I just say that this reeks of a scam?
Tell me why. Tell me why.
Because you've got two right-wing finance ministers basically arguing over that we're not right-wing enough.
Yep.
There's no balance there. And the only metric that they've got on is who's done more damage to New Zealand as a whole over a shorter amount of time.
Well, I would say Richardson, but for Nicola, you've still got time. you've still got a year to take that title.
I was looking at some facts and figures from of debt to GDP, and to Richardson's credit, things were pretty bad in the early 90s. And they went hell for leather and pulled debt to GDP from, it was north of 50%, down as low as 18 by the end of the 90s.
Wow.
Okay, and then Clark built on it, and then shit went out of whack. And it seems like Willis is trying to do the same thing, and very much the same way, but failing abysmally.
Well, and doing the opposite.
If
she's trying to do the same thing, that's like saying the 100-meter race is starting and they're trying to get to the end, and you've got someone running in the opposite direction, still trying to win that, or saying they're trying to win that race.
Well, here's the difference. Richardson had shit to sell.
Yeah.
Willis doesn't.
Yeah.
So all she can do is borrow.
Wow.
All she can do is borrow at the moment.
Can I introduce you to some new ports?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. That's the missing piece. That's what they will do if they get another term. So all Willis has had is the beneficiary, like beneficiary bashing was Richardson. They didn't have the Māori bashing. Bolger actually wasn't too bad on that.
Right.
So, it's funny when you dive into the comparisons of those two, because I've been very keen to say Willis is doing a Richardson 2.0, but the devil is is in the detail, and both of them are demons. So it works.
I saw some comments, I think on our YouTube channel, actually. No, I was looking at the comments on the YouTube channel, but I was. Lots of people actually echoing the fact that they don't want to see this and kind of going, why would anyone want to mainstream these two views? I mean, it's the Minister of Finance and the ex-minister. They're already pretty mainstreamed. What I hear you saying is it's a jack up by both sides. I don't think that, because I truly do believe the Taxpayers Union are after Nicola Willis's blood. And for it to be a jack up with both sides in on it, Nicola Willis would have to be playing her part of it while she's working with a group that are literally out for her blood, and for it to be, all go away. So I actually think it's probably Nicola Willis, who someone said to me used to be the president of her debate club in school, like a literal debate girl.
I can believe that.
Actually going to Ruth Richardson, I will take you apart. I mean, my money's on Richardson, but I'll watch it. I'll just put it out there. I'll watch it. It is a grudge match, as Chubby would say. We go on 90 seconds. Did you say grudge funk? Is that what you say? It's one of those. But it is a grudge match, and it would be train wreck viewing. But I would watch it, and we would report on it. So.
And if I may continue to derail the show straight out of the gates a little bit more.
No one's waiting to come on. It's fine.
No, it's fine. Can you please chuck up the image that I have on the screen there? Maybe we'll make that a little bit bigger.
Rangitata. James Meagher,
So
MP for Rangitata.
James Meagher's electorate office. Looks like any National Party electorate office, right?
National
Notice
Front.
anything? Notice anything, Pat?
MP for Rangitata, James Meagher, National, New Zealand Parliamentary emblem. What am I missing? Yeah. Oh, top right hand corner. Can you say? How did that get there, and who put that there? Naughty people.
Don't know. It must have been someone that had travelled outside of the region to a place that had stickers recently. I don't know. Nothing to do with us. Not encouraged.
All right. Let's take this away. We can't derail the show already. I know it's our MO, but we can't derail it already. Laura just also says in the super chats, Nikki No Boats versus Ruth and Asia cage fight win. I mean, you normally say with two guys who are standing off to fight each other, it's handbags at 30 paces. This is probably literally Prada handbags at 30 paces. I don't know if it'll ever turn into an actual event, but we shall see. I think
it's bollocks. It's all bollocks.
All right. We're doing things tonight. Social media bans, more polls out today. And Westpac increases mortgage rates, along with a couple of other topics that we're going to talk to a young upstart, a young award-winning podcaster. Rumour has it he is both tall and handsome. It is Craig Renney. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. Rumour is correct.
We have a grudge match. We've got a grudge match for you right now. I'm sorry. We have to do this. Because I will get arse this Saturday with our meetup if I don't address this to you right now. You held up a sign on Friday that said 340 days until the next election. One of our regulars here, Citizen Gold, he wants to fight you and he wants to see your workings. Are you able to help us out? Because he's basically coming at us every single night. That I said, well, Craig said it was 340, and I've seen his workings, so I can see how he can get there. Can you shed any light on that before we have to actually? He took his glasses off, Gold. You're in trouble. Craig took his glasses off. Now it comes out.
So Citizen Gold is absolutely right. Theoretically, you can go all the way to 374 days. However, I don't think the government will go right till the very end. It's by convention they don't. Okay. They generally speaking don't go through till December. And the reason for that is because of government formation. Nobody wants to be forming government over Christmas because you then lose the ability to legislate over the Christmas period. You lose the ability to do a 100-day term. You lose the ability to do lots of things. As a consequence, my guess is looking at the dates that are available, that I actually think it'll be around Halloween.
October 31st. October 31st is a Saturday.
Correct.
Would that be because that's when Winston is at his strongest?
That is simply, it avoids public holidays. It avoids
All Blacks test matches. Is always one.
Games. It avoids all sorts of things. And as a consequence, now, so Citizen Gold is correct. It could be that long, but I don't believe it will be. And by convention, it hasn't been in the past. If you go the full distance, that's generally a sign of a government that is absolutely on its knees and is eking out every day possible.
So they will go full distance. No, they probably won't.
I don't think they will.
So even if Winston Peters was to sadly demise in the next 300-ish days, he could be raised up again on Halloween and be there for the election. So, yeah.
I don't know what the electoral register rules are on electing the deceased.
The post-dead.
I do know that if your name is on the poll and you die, it doesn't matter. You still can be elected, and then you have to go to another election immediately afterwards. So it is possible that there will be. It is possible they will go to 374 days, but it is deeply unlikely.
Just to squash this beef, Gold says, I completely agree with Craig. Until the date is actually set, though, my number is technically correct. I always qualify with at most. I will update the countdown as soon as we have a date. So I think that's a bit I agree with you, Craig, but I'm still right.
and I usually to go for the benefit of the tape, when I'm talking in audiences, as I did in Dunedin last week, I said around 340 days until the next election.
Very good. Hey, we have had news today that for the first time in a long time, it seems like the longer term mortgage rates have started to go up. It seems like short term have come down, mid term have stayed about the same, long term at Westpac have started to go up. This is just 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Let's get the whole story, and then we want to talk about it with you, and then we might actually ask you some questions about the RMA, and then especially for the viewers tonight, stay around, viewers, because we're going to talk to Craig a little bit about his book. That's right, I said his book at the end of this chat. So let's have a look first of all at what's happened at Westpac today. And people are going a bit crazy about it, actually.
No mai haere mai. Welcome to 3 News. Westpac has become the first major bank to increase some of its mortgage lending rates following months of interest rate cuts. It comes after the Reserve Bank gave the impression last month it was closing the door on further cuts to the official cash rate, which appears to have pushed Westpac to hike its longer-term mortgage rates. As political correspondent Zane Small reports, it's bad timing for the government, with a new poll showing cost of living concerns have soared ahead of Christmas.
The new governor of the Reserve Bank meeting the media. Journalists were invited to get to know Anna Bremen at a breakfast hosted.
Hey, internationally, she said she was surprised that there were so many cameras. That implies to me that maybe we treat our reserve governor a bit different from other places in the world. Like if this was happening in another OECD country, come and meet, what would it be like, less of a turnout? Or is that just saying she's just not really used to it, so this is more cameras? Or do we treat them a bit like celebs because we're in New Zealand?
We treat them more like a politician than in other jurisdictions. In most jurisdictions, they are a person. They will turn up when there are official bank functions, but beyond that, they don't do cameraed meets and greets.
Okay. All right. So, so she wouldn't have expected it because generally this is not how the rest of the world responds to their equivalent of a Reserve Bank
correct
governor. All right. Gotcha.
At the Reserve Bank this morning.
I am very honoured to be the new Reserve Bank governor.
The Swedish economist takes the helm after a series of cuts to the official cash rate to help boost the economy. But Westpac has now become the first major bank to increase some of its mortgage lending rates after the Reserve Bank gave the impression last month it was closing the door on further cuts. And that seems to have pushed Westpac to hike its longer-term mortgage rates of 2 to 5 year fixed terms by 30 basis points.
You know, Westpac has dropped its short-term rate, it's held its sort of medium-term rates, and it's lifted its longer-term rates. So there is a bit more variety coming through, which I think is indicative of the fact that we're probably near a turning point.
Our focus will be to see how this affects households and firms and businesses.
The timing could be problematic for the government if homeowners get spooked by the idea of rate hikes rather than cuts ahead of the festive season.
There's a potential that there is a little bit of a confidence knock from starting to see, a change of tune on interest rates.
My message to New Zealanders is shop around. Westpac have made that choice. Other banks have not.
I think this highlights the problem with the government's overall economic strategy here. They're waiting for the Reserve Bank to save them because they haven't got a plan to tackle the cost of living.
A new tax.
There we go. And that's all we're going to do on that show because it goes into talking about a taxpayers union poll, and we're going to talk about that a bit later in the show. So we'll save that video for a bit later. I guess, Craig, just throw you the ball, as we normally do. Your first reactions and explanations as to what's going on. Because I understand at the moment, as of live streaming, I nearly said as of recording, but not recording, that's the only bank to have done it still. So what's going on?
Can we play a game?
Yes.
All three of us.
It's
Okay.
involve alcohol? Is there alcohol involved? Is there...
You can try. You're going to be Westpac, Pat.
Okay, I am. Yep.
Right. Chewy, you're going to be Global Bank, which is the
Global Bank.
wholesale bank. And I'm going to be the Reserve Bank of New Zealand as a former employee of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand.
Right. Okay.
You, Pat, want to lend money to people to pay mortgages and do other things. Yeah?
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
You have to borrow money to pay the money to somebody else. Yeah. So
Borrow
you
from
go to Chewy, to Global
Yep.
Bank, or to Macquarie, or to whoever, right? And a source of liquidity. And you say, I will happily lend you the money because Pat is a AAA rated bank. He's solid as a rock. He's just going to disperse that money. You're not interested in retail banking. And so the money flows from you to Pat, from Pat to the customers, and the money flows back.
Yep.
Jobs are good. Yeah, everyone makes money. We call the difference between the rate you charge, Chewy, and the rate you charge, Pat, the NIM, or the net interest margin.
Okay.
And that is the cost of doing business. Right? So usually in New Zealand, that's about 2%. So whatever you charge, Chewy, Pat, you'll charge about 2% more.
Yeah.
And then the customer will pay that on the other side. It's about
So
2.5%.
Chewy charges me 2%. I put it out there at 4%, give or take.
4.5%.
Yep.
Done, right? And that's the bank, right? Now, the rate you're charging, Chewy, is based upon a thing called the swap. So essentially, it's the swap rate between a variable loan and a fixed rate loan. So you will lend to Pat on a fixed rate, but you will take the risk of floating rates on the other side because you borrow money from banks and from reserve banks and from others. Okay. And you're big and you don't really care and it doesn't make any difference to you. Yeah. But that swap rate, when it goes up, that affects the rate you charge Pat. Now, on the 17th of October, the 2-year swap rate was 2.44%, according to the Reserve Bank.
Yeah.
On the 9th of December, the 2-year swap rate was 3.05%.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's gone up 60 basis points.
Yeah. Why?
Few things. One, the Reserve Bank has signaled that there are no more interest rate cuts. Mm-hmm. The market has gone, oh, okay, then our swap rate, the rate you're going to pass through, is going to go up a bit because I'm not going to price in any more cuts to interest rates in the future. So you're going to say, Chewy, okay, you can have the money, but you're going to pay a little bit more because there's now no risk of an interest rate cut in the future that I can price into the cost of the money going to you, Pat. 2, inflation around the world is a bit more sticky than people have been wondering. Australian inflation is 3.8%. Inflation in the UK is still quite high. In New Zealand, inflation is 3%. We had thought by now it might have come down a bit. There's some risks that it might go up a bit in the future. So therefore, we go, ooh, hang on. The time at which the first interest rate increase might start is getting closer and closer and closer. And the markets are now pricing in the risk of an interest rate increase in May next year.
Okay.
Okay.
What that means is the cost of capital going from Chewy to Pat now goes up because market expectations are interest rates might come forward. 3, and as I see Josh Anthony 2782 on your comments said our currency is not very attractive, to which you, Chewy, replied in outrage about the colors and the people on the currency. But he's dead right. We have a thing called currency risk, because you're taking often US dollars, converting them into New Zealand dollars to lend to Pat. But those New Zealand dollars are now worth less and less and less. The New Zealand dollar has depreciated by 6%. So as a consequence, there is a risk that when you go to convert those dollars back into US dollars, you eat some of your profit with the exchange rate falling. As a consequence, the price of interest rates that are 2 years and further are going up because the wholesale rate is going up. The wholesale rate is going up because the swap rate is going up. The swap rate is going up because people think that interest rates might happen earlier. Currency risk is happening, and people are a bit afraid about inflation. And so that's driving that decision making. In the short run, it doesn't make much difference. So if you've got a 1-year interest rate, not a huge amount of difference, but 2 years and above, it's all getting more expensive. And why is that important? Because what it suggests is if it does knock the economy, if people do start not borrowing, the long hoped for recovery in 26, it won't be, because it was originally survive till 25, and then it was survive through 25, and then it was strive to 26. It will be, we're still here in 27.
No heaven in 27. Does that work?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We will still be here,
Let's ask Bevan about 27. Is there an economist called Bevan somewhere?
Well, there's a famous Labour Party politician, but beyond that, there's, we will be, if interest rates don't fall, that is the beginning and end of the National Party's economic policy.
All right. Couple of quick questions. You talked about the swap rate potentially going up again May-ish of next year, or it's being looked at there. Why then are the short-term rates still going down? Because if the swap rates is going up, pretending to go up like in 6 months from now, then that means it might cost more to borrow in 12 months from now, yet those ones are still sort of going down. Because
the risk in May is still theoretically quite small.
Okay.
But it gets bigger as you go through the year.
So they're basically they're odds makers. They're gamblers. They're odds makers, and they're playing the odds.
Everything finance.
Yeah.
Everything we do here is casino gambling.
Yeah.
It is literally, and it is as literal as I.
Oh dear!
Always been zapped.
It's been the Reserve Bank has got into Craig, and they've gone, we are not allowing this conversation to happen. We'll see if he pops back in a sec. Because the other thing I want to know, Chewy, is with this idea about the swap rate. Oh, there he goes. He's back. You back?
He moved a little bit.
No. Yes. No. And you froze again.
Everybody freeze, just in case.
Everybody freeze. The other thing I wanted to know with the swap rate, so the difference between you lending money to me and me lending it to the public, through COVID, some countries' interest rates dropped to like 1 or 0%. You back, Craig?
Yes, hopefully.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
The difference with the swap rate and the NIM, right? So the swap rate is what Chewy as the World Bank charges me as the Reserve Bank or the bank, the Westpac Bank. And then I put it out. Around COVID, some places in the world had 0 or 0.5%. That implies there's no swap rate whatsoever. How did the world keep going with lending money through a period where banks were giving it out at like 0.5%?
So there's a difference between the OCR, the official cash rate, and the swap rate. So the official cash rate can be 0. It was negative in some countries.
I'm talking about banks. There was banks around the world doing 0% mortgages during that time period.
The banks were, yes, they were, but they were doing that off the back of the fact that their borrowing costs were 0.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. So the banks were doing that. That means they must have been borrowing from Chewy at 0%. But then how does Chewy make money? and that the World Bank
Chewy-
make money in that situation.
Well, the problem there is that Chewy at that point is awash with cash.
Makes
Chewy
sense.
has more money than
that's
it is
very
costing.
relatable.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, Chewy holding on to that money is actually costing him money.
Okay.
So if he just put the money in the bank and said, "Sod it, I'm not lending it to you. I'm not interested," right? He's actually losing money by doing that. And as a consequence,
What a problem!
He's desperate to shovel that money out of the door. Right? And we used to have a thing called the Japanese carry trade, without wishing to bore too many people, where the Bank of Japan would lend at 0%. And you would then borrow from the Bank of Japan at 0%, convert that into whatever currency you had, lend it 3, 4, 5%, and then give the money back to the Bank of Japan in 2 years' time, essentially for free. And so you would be borrowing from the Bank of Japan, who was trying desperately to lend money to increase inflation in its country because it had deflation for 15, 20 years.
So, long story short on the situation, you've explained why Westpac is putting them up, and the way you explained it kind of goes, there's a reason for it. Sort of, you've explained it to a way that it sort of makes sense. Does that mean we're going to see other banks going up? Because
Yes.
Nicola Willis today has been like, well, just shop around. I don't think many people understand how hard it is to shop around. I don't know if it's the same as you, Chewy, but to change banks is like a full-time job for 2 weeks to actually get to changing banks. They have us locked in pretty much. And if the response is just shop around, but they're all going to change, then what I hear you saying is this is actually this is how the formula works, whether we like it or not.
Whether we like it or not, this is just how the money market works. And the way this works traditionally in New Zealand, because we have 4 big Australian banks that are massive in comparison to the New Zealand parts of them, we borrow from those Australian banks. Those Australian banks then profit twice.
Yeah.
Because they get the profit from Chewy, and then they get the profit from you, Pat, and then all that money ends up back in Australia. So it's a case of you could do it differently. You could have the state lend the money at a different rate, but the state would face exactly the same problems as a big bank.
But the state wouldn't necessarily need to make the NIM, would they? If they weren't
Correct.
they wouldn't need to add that bit on. That's how a state could help a citizen. The citizens.
It could do. The challenge there is that we have a thing called the opportunity cost, because I could lend it to you for nothing and you could do something nice with it, or I could put it on the money market and get 5%. And as a consequence, I lose 5% from giving it to you to do a nice thing, as opposed to just putting it on black somewhere else.
Yeah, I guess the thing is, okay, so maybe they can't just pass it on, but they could do a 0.5% mortgage or a 1% mortgage when others are doing 0.5% above the thing. Yeah. Okay, so what you're saying, and I hope people don't hear this thinking, that's fine, guys, don't worry about it. But what you're saying is this is the formula and this is how it works. Okay, so I guess we've got to be careful not to be financial advisors now, but what should people be doing then? Fixing now as long as they can on banks that haven't gone up yet? Or what would be the best plan in your honest held opinion rather than financial advice? We're not giving financial advice.
Not an economist, not a financial advisor. You should always pay your mortgage off as fast as is humanly possible. There is no better way of saving money than your mortgage. So if you've got a spare dollar, spend it. If you find yourself in spare cash, pay the mortgage off, because as Albert Einstein famously said, the most powerful force in the universe is not gravity, it's compound interest. And as a consequence, if you can save compound interest on your mortgage, you're making money. 2, if you find yourself wanting to change banks or change your mortgage, either go to a broker who will help you do the negotiation for you, or be absolutely ruthless. That when I got my first mortgage, I was walking between Kiwi Bank and ANZ, as in literally walking in and out of the 2 banks and saying, they said that, can you beat it? And then I went back next door and said, they said that, can you beat it? and it's your money. 3, when someone offers you something for free with your mortgage, it's not free. So when someone says, oh, there's some money, have a big bag of money if you move your mortgage to us, you're paying for it. It's in the mortgage.
Yeah, but if it's the same interest rate, if you're basically paying and you've got no transfer fees and the same interest rate, it is still in your mortgage, but staying with your current ones, you don't get the bag of money anyway.
Correct. You don't get the bag of money. So the best thing you can do at that point is to say, fantastic, maximize the bag of money and then take the bag of money off the mortgage.
Yep.
And you're forcing the bank to eat the interest.
Very good advice. Hey, we do also want to have a look at the RMA, because the RMA came out yesterday, and the changes, you know what I'm saying, the changes to the RMA. Labor, we had, who did we have on last night? We had on last night Rachel Brooking. Sorry, I was just thinking, who was the RMA spokesperson for Labor. And Chippy said in the news item at 6 o'clock last night that Labor is, we kind of don't really have anything to say yet. We've got to look over this. We've got to check out the numbers and figure out what it's all about. Rachel was sort of in that same position. I guess the one thing we did point out is that there's lots about housing and development and private ownership rights. There's not much about the environment in there. And I thought about it today. There's this carve out, or this condition that if a council therefore puts restrictions on a private landowner, the council may then have to pay that private landowner for the restrictions, which of course means councils will not want to put restrictions on, which of course means more bad news for the environment. So if the council says to the landowner, I'm sorry, that thatch of native trees, you can't touch that, landowner goes, okay, that's 60 grand or whatever they work out to be, or the council can go, oh yeah, just wipe them, and it would cost the council nothing, which is a pretty demonic way of taking the teeth away from a council who already are. And whilst they're doing that, they're capping the rates, not allow them to get more money to pay these things back, and on and on and on and on it goes. Anyway, it's been 24 hours, but more. What anything that's come out that we need to see? Or I can see you ready to jump in. Anything I've said that you want to respond to?
Just on that one point on the what's called the regulatory undertakings, it's actually much, much, much worse than you suggest, Pat.
Very good.
Because you can actually, just as an economist, regardless of where I come from in politics, right, working out future value of loss is one of the most contested things we do. So you say that patch of scrubland, you're not allowed to do something with it because we say there's a native moth on it and we want to protect that parcel of land. Fine. Right. Yeah. And you say, no, I was going to turn that into a high-end casino that was going to generate me $100 million a year.
Yeah.
Right. And they say, no, you weren't. It's a patch of scrubland and it's marshy and it would never have supported the casino. And you will all end up in court again and again and again. Because you can't work out, you can't prove a negative. You can't prove, oh, no, I would have made $100 million. I've got the architect's plans. I had a builder lined up. Give me the money. And so it will be even worse than that. It is a demonstrably stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, so
that's about right, isn't it? That ticks the box for this government. Pretty good.
Speaking of demonstrably stupid, one of the things that we've heard over and over again from people is that this will lead to some kind of economic boost, that we will get a huge amount of new GDP, that we will be delivering huge cash savings to the economy as a consequence of this RMA reform. Now, as the only person in the country sad enough to have read every single one of the economic impact assessment documents with the RMA,
and Chewy, you and Chewy,
to me and Chewy, I'm sure Chewy has somewhere a copy of the Allen and Clark and Infometrics economic efficiency assessment for a new planning and environmental management system, and alongside it, the 2025 Castalia economic and impact analysis of the proposed resource management reforms. Now,
absolutely in every room but this one.
I mean, it's just everywhere. I mean, it's all the kids are talking about. But on page 20 of that document of the Allen and Clark Infometrics report.
Are you sure you don't want you don't want Chewy to kind of summarize it, seeing he's read it as well? Like, No?
No, it's it's actually difficult for me to follow along. So I know Chewy's got a deeper understanding of this than I. So I wanted. To,
this is just going deeper and deeper. I'm enjoying this more and more. Sorry, Craig. Keep going.
Sorry. Yes. So the paper says on page 20, yet when viewed against the size of the whole economy, these process improvements represent modest gains of less than 0.1% of GDP annually.
So less than 1/10 of 1%.
Yes.
So what's our GDP? Top of the
GDP is $420 billion.
So 10% would be 40, 1% would be 4, 1/10 of 1% would be $400,000.
400 million, yeah.
400 million, sorry. $400 million.
So this is it. But this is based upon the, as it says here, the Curia 2025 report.
Oh, we've heard that name before, haven't we?
We have. Close followers along. We remember Curia from previous episodes, such as the National Fiscal Plan.
Yes.
And Jack Tame going, is that it? Now, this document, the Curia report, is a mess. As an economist, I look at it, and it is it makes the rather bold claim that the overall thing will save $14 billion. Now, but that's over the next 30 years.
So $500 million a year.
Yep. And
we've just worked it out to be about 400 million. Okay.
Right now, okay, but the assumptions in this report are wild. It assumes so many people working on the report to date. So there's about $4 billion of costs where we assume everyone is earning $150,000 a year.
Okay.
We assume that in some of the costs, and I quote, we add 100% to the costs simply for the cost of consultants. Hundreds of millions of dollars. We assume in other sections that, so one of my personal favorites, on page table 3.21, it says, Maoris spend a bit longer on consultation because they often engage with government. But some iwi groups also run on volunteer work. Some have employed professionals, so we estimate $89.90 is an average between the two costs, and then that means that we're spending millions of dollars on freshwater submissions. It's absolutely bananas. And then when it comes to the new system, it just says things like, we assume the new spatial plans that will be delivered will cost 27.5% of the old plans. And there's no explanation why.
Goodness me. So where does that leave us? What's the consequence?
So this says 0.1% of the savings that are proposed in this document. However, this document's savings are nonsense on steroids. As a consequence, the 0.1% is likely 0.000 something of a percent. As a consequence, there may well be no savings at all.
There is one obvious question, even though that was the correct word for Chewy to use. The only thing to then check off on, though, is even if and I'm just doing this from sort of the logistics of it, even if there's no savings, is it going to make things easier and still protect things as they are now? Like, would it be worth making changes if it actually made the process quicker, even though they've made no extra money on it and it hasn't ruined our environment? I mean, as I say that out loud, I kind of throw up in the back of my mouth a little bit, but that's a fair question to ask.
It's a very fair question to ask. And the honest answer is possibly, because people don't build because of the RMA. People build because they can generate a profit. They can do a thing and generate an outcome. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, what that means is if the market fundamentals are still terrible, which they are right now, no one's going to build regardless of how good the RMA is, because no one's buying houses. So you've got to have the economic background right first, and that will drive the change much more quickly than any RMA changes will actually drive any changes. And RMA changes might well make it easier to do things, but because all of this is new, and because the two new acts are 760 something pages long between them, we're all going to end up in court again for a very long time. And as someone, so back in the day, for those of you who've doxed my LinkedIn profile, you will know that I used to work for the North East Regional Assembly in the UK, and we used to write the regional spatial strategy for the North East of England, and we did that, and it took us 2 years and endless consultation in bad hotels around the North East of England. And the North East of England is no better off as a consequence of having had a regional spatial strategy, because the economy of the North East of England at the time and now is balked. And as a consequence, that's the fundamental problem. The RMA, making it easier to develop, is great. Making it easier to do things is sensible. Doing it well is very important. But hoping that that change in of itself is actually going to make any difference, that's a big ask, because you're asking a system which regulates development to create development, and that's not how this works.
Chewy, you've been very quiet over there. Obviously, you've been reading your copy of it, checking in to make sure Craig is representing that accurately. Do you have anything you want to add in here before we talk about Craig's book?
This is just another thing that just stuns me. You just assume that the people that we elect, whether you agree with where they sit on the spectrum, are competent, listen to the right people, have our best interests at heart, even if we might disagree on some things. What the fuck is going on?
Well, what's going on is for the longest time, we've assumed that part of our productivity problem is the Resource Management Act, and it might well be. It might be holding some things back, and we do spend too much money on development costs and making sure and checking some things. That is undoubtedly true. But that's not the same thing as this system being better. And that's not the same thing.
But both major parties agreed that the RMA Act needed some changes. This just seems like they're hanging so much. There's so many eggs in this one basket of, like, if we just chop away at this, then question mark profit.
So you're going to be telling me that the government's economic strategy was hope the Reserve Bank cuts the interest rate. The government's development strategy is we hope that the RMA reforms encourages someone to build something. We're not going to do it ourselves. We're just going to get rid of the regulations. We're going to get things free. That's it. And as a consequence, now the previous system that Labour had put forward before was a bit more comprehensive. There were more pages to it. Don't get me wrong, there was 900 pages rather than 700 and odd in this set. But they're both very similar sets of documents. The difference is the previous Labour government was doing stuff fiscally to encourage development. It was spending money on schools and hospitals and other things. This is a government that's not. And it's assuming that if it doesn't, and it still does the other thing, it gets the development. And that's not how this works. Because you still need the actual activity to take place.
Yeah. Anything else we need to add to that conversation that you think, Craig, anything we've missed on? I'm just listening, thinking, yep, okay. Right. So what you're saying is there's a lot of fanfare that's not going to make very much difference. And as we heard the Prime Minister say yesterday, this is going to cut through both the red and green tape, which fills me with tons of fear, as councils now are going to be charged for every restriction they want to place on someone who needs to access the resource management. This is a nightmare.
Let me give you an example of where two different approaches here in government. So the government's approach to Paris and our Paris agreements is basically just to say, get lost, we don't care. Right? And as a consequence, we could just emit. We're not going to have to control our carbon. That's it. Yeah. And you've got a Resource Management Act, which now has to deal with the consequences of that. Because the consequences are essentially that you're going to have more climate change flooding. You're going to have more storms. You're going to have more other things. But your RMA response is to say, oh, we don't need that. We just need development.
There is conversation around some commentators today, and I know that you are now a candidate, so not wanting you to put your official kind of potentially Labour hat on, but there are some commentary from commentators, not necessarily kind of leftist commentators either, saying if we're going to make these changes, Labour has to be on board. Do you think Labour's going to get on board? Can Labour get on board with these RMA changes? Are there some in there that they're going to go tick, 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 no, no, no? Any thoughts?
I think one of the things Chris Hipkins has said is that he wants to go through the two documents because, as I said, the two documents that have come out look remarkably similar at times to the previous reforms that were put out by the last Labour government. So you probably want to work through what's really going on. But to give you some example of what's sort of the path we've been on, we delivered RMA reform in 22 and 23. The government then abolished the RMA reform in 24, brought back the old RMA pre that RMA reform until it could bring in the new RMA that it has in 25, but that RMA will be delivered in 26. We probably all need a cup of tea and a rest in terms of actually saying, let's stop doing this and let's really work through what actually needs to be done, because we actually need sensible planning documents. We need sensible planning strategies. Let's work through this well. And to be fair to the government, I don't say this often, to be fair to the government, they are planning to have a proper select committee process. They are planning to have a proper consultation process. So, you know, as with all of this, there'll be a lot of gremlins to get through before we get to the end. Well,
Craig, when people have that cup of tea, they probably need something to read whilst they're taking that wee break. Little Birdie tells me that you have a new book out. Do you want to tell us about it?
Well, in between their debates on the RMA, they want something light, uplifting, something that really helps, sort of, it speaks to your soul,
So pictures.
So it does have some pictures. So the book that's being published by BWB, called The Good Economy, is a collection of work that we have done basically through it's basically all the work we've done through the Council of Trade Unions and documents like the Inflation and Incomes Act, the Building a Better Aotearoa, and we go through issues such as development. We go through issues such as education returns, unemployment, child poverty, and one of the questions the book's always asking is, what kind of economy do we want? Because we never articulate in New Zealand, or very rarely articulate in New Zealand, what kind of economy we want, what kind of thing we want to do. Because you can have any kind of economy that you want. You've got to have a lodestar, a sense of where you want to head to. And much of our economic policy in New Zealand is simply defensive. Right. We simply say, something goes wrong, we fix it. But we just bumble our way through that. And two, one of the things I say on this show often, so forgive me, is we know the cost of everything, but we know the value of nothing. And so when we make investments, I can tell you what the cost of building a hospital is. I can tell you what the cost of building a road is. But what I can't tell you is what the cost of not building that hospital is.
Yeah. Can't prove a negative.
Because, we can. So you can do this work. This is quite straightforward. We just choose not to.
Right.
And as a consequence, in choosing not to, we never know whether or not we should really have made that investment or not, because we're just assuming that not spending the money is good for us. Instead, if you were thinking about a hospital, if you build a new hospital, it would be more efficient. It would have doctors and nurses would be happier to be there. Patients would get in and out more quickly. the Crown would get more tax from people being better, faster, so on, so on and so forth. We never measure that. We only measure the cost of building the hospital and staffing it.
Yeah, I think that's our whole game plan for a majority of infrastructure. Like, we just don't have the mindset. Like, I go back to that article, I think it was someone from Fletcher's, going, every time we need to do a big project, we start from scratch.
Yes.
Because we don't have a consistent plan of like, well, let's spend the next 30, 40 years building hospitals, building tunnels, building bridges. That sort of thing is that we constantly have to import talent from overseas to do it, and then we let them go somewhere else.
And so, I'm really keen to stress, this isn't a party political book. I haven't written this as the Labour candidate for this. I'm not expecting this to be Labour Party policy. I'm not expecting any of this to be there. But if you take nothing else away from, this sort of thing, there's a quote that we use from Keynes, the great economist, where we say, who said, the difficulty lies not in the new ideas, but escaping from the old ones. And to me, that is the story of New Zealand's economy over the past 40 years. We've had an idea, which was we would apply a very open market, minimal government, minimal regulation economy, where people would be at liberty to do what they wanted. They could, they could sell their labor, you could build things, you could do what you wanted. Yeah. And with 40 years into that, we're no better off. In fact, many of us are worse off as a consequence. So we need to escape from that idea and get a new set of ideas about the economy, a new set of ideas that work for everyone.
I guess the big question is, if The Big Short can get Margot Robbie in a bubble bath, when they make the movie of your book, who do you see in it?
Who's in your bubble bath?
That is a great and terrifying. I'm wondering when the bubble bath section of that is, possibly talking about the slightly frothy housing market that we have in New Zealand.
You've had a suggestion.
That is a challenging image that I'm going to leave there.
Okay. Very good. Hey, congratulations on the book.
Thank
you.
mean,
it's not a mean feat to get it done. I put up, it's available at Whitcourse, all sorts of places. People talking about autographed copies as well. Maybe we should buy some off you, Craig, and do them autographed, put them on the BHN store or something if they want to get one. But let's talk about that later on. If people want to grab them now, sort of thing. Whitcourse, I guess a bunch of other places I saw it as well for $20 just to let people know. But I guess Whitcourse is one of the bigger ones. Where did we see it? Aotearoa Books. Kitty Books, Whitcourse. You can pick it up if you want, but I'll fire you a message, and maybe if we can buy some off you and you can autograph them, then we can put them on our store as well if people want them.
If you do that, please buy them through BWB, who's the publisher of the book, because that means it's much more straightforward, and BWB, who've backed me through this, get all the benefit on that side.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Hey, congratulations. Very exciting. Not many of us on the face of this little blue marble flying through space get a published book by the end of our lives. So well done on that. And thanks for the conversation tonight. I know it's been a bit sort of heavy and technical for some people, but I think it's really important to figure out, because people are freaking out about Westpac today. So it's good to know the system better. People are freaking out about the Resource Management Act yesterday, and I think there's good reason to. And people have had a tasty treat at the end hearing about your new book, and we'll hold you to that thing about Margot Robbie in the frothy market when you get your movie made. I'm available. I'm available for security that day. Like, I don't need to do anything. I'll just work security. No problems at all. Congratulations again, Craig.
Thank you.
Are we going to, this is completely now behind the curtains. Are we doing a podcast tomorrow? Is there anything going
on? We might be. I need to talk. It's simply a function of my work. But if we do, we'll be doing the podcast on all of the details inside these reports.
Cool. Well, we'll let the people know if that is the case or not. Thank you for coming on, and we will talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Cheers, Craig.
Cheers, Craig.
Craig Renney, the chief economist from the CTU. Right. Let's just get straight to some of these super chats. It's in the ballot. It says their money is on Saturday, 28th November. I guess that's for the election. I wonder why. Overred Rover says, will Craig Renney be locked out next week? I know the answer to that. Treasury has locked him out of these places, and Craig's response to that is, yeah, fair enough. That's appropriate, because he is now a candidate for Labor. So his putting a candidate for Labor in earlier is not good form. So I've already talked to Craig about that, and that's the answer to your question. You're going to say something?
Are you sure he's not just happy he doesn't have to change the name of the podcast?
That too. But remember, he's not locked out anymore. So we called it locked out, and then he got into the next one. I think he got into the next one because we put pressure on, but
Yeah. No, it was us. Yeah.
No, it was all us. Brad Olsen versus Craig Renney cage fight win. Says Laura. Howie says tax the hoarders, call out the greed. Peter says the Nats are consulting the underpants gnomes. Speed locked a pretty lady tequila late fee. And
someone's had a good evening then.
Yeah, I reckon. Pete says just ordered Craig's book, perfect for the beach. There you go, Peter. Yep, we'll talk to Craig and see if we can get some copies, maybe get them signed and put them up on the shop, and you can buy them direct from there. We'll play it all by ear though, but like I said, there's no plans for that, so don't wait for us if you want to go and get it. Get it in your incent. I was going to say get it in Santa's sack. That doesn't sound quite right. Stocking, in the stocking under the Christmas tree, something like that.
There's a comment that's just gone on about the 28th of November is the anniversary of the first Labor government in 1935.
Well, it's definitely not going to be then, is it? 100%. Definitely not going to be then. Okay. Shall we have a look at this story? I haven't seen this story yet, actually, because I watched the One News story. I like sometimes looking over at the other side and see what they're doing, because then we get to see it as well. This is both 1 and 3 reported this tonight. This is the social media ban. And now that it's come into effect in Australia, One News showed it and basically was talking to a bunch of 16-year-olds who all went, no, I've still got access, as they were getting on TikTok, and nothing had changed for them. Had changed for others, though. We'll see what 3 has got to say about the social media ban. And it's very clear that New Zealand and the world, actually, because this is a world first, are watching what's going on this social media ban for under 16s.
Australia's world first ban on social media for under 16s kicked in today, a move the world is watching. All political parties here agree children need protection online, but can't agree on how to deliver it. Senior reporter Juliet Speedy has the story.
I'll send you a snap. Let's make a TikTok. I'll DM you on Insta.
Jeez, how unauthentic does that sound? That is really your nan trying to talk to the 16-year-olds about their culture, isn't it? I'll send you a snap.
David Seymour.
Things you now won't hear from under 16-year-olds in Australia with their ambitious experiment to boot young teens off social media.
For the good of Kirsty. For the good of Lucy and Anya.
Aussie teens are now banned from the list of YouTube.
I have to say, TV1 showed fucking Albanese talking about this. And we just really want to protect. He sounded like the most drunk uncle at a barbecue, brain dead, unrelatable person talking about social media, whether it's good or bad. Look, I've got teenagers, and I don't see this as necessarily a bad thing, but geez, check your audience. The wrong person to be talking to 16-year-olds about why this is good. Holy mackerel.
X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Reddit, Twitch, Threads and Kik.
From December 10, if you're under 16, you're no longer allowed to have a social media account.
Thanks, Uncle Ted. Would you like me to get you sherry now and then put your slippers by the rocking chair? Sheesh.
Companies could face fines of up to $50 million if they don't take the proper steps to stop under 16s on those platforms. The tech giants say they will comply, but call it arbitrary. The Australian government says it's aimed to protect teens from online abuse, harmful content and excessive screen time. The Prime Minister attempting some advice.
Above all, make the most of the school holidays coming up rather than spending it scrolling on your phone. Start a new sport, learn a new instrument, or read that book that's been sitting there on your shelf for some time.
But the experiment...
Like, honestly, the face of the youth. Sorry, I know, and look, I'll say again, I don't necessarily think it's bad getting kids off phones, but drunk old uncle telling them about it, like, please, get the right person.
Or read that book that's been sitting there on your shelf for some time.
But the experimental law isn't foolproof.
I do know anecdotally that also they are migrating to other platforms that aren't as yet covered under the ban. I've heard of the platform Yoke, which has sort of got similar facilities to Snapchat, and also that potentially some of the age verification software may not be working.
And when kids jump to these less regulated social media platforms, that's when they're shown more things, or they're more vulnerable to online bullying or predators.
Noah engages social media in so many positive, wholesome ways. The things that Noah's generation learns, we dreamed of. We were so limited to libraries and single pages of encyclopedia.
Here in New Zealand, there is cross-party support for better protecting children online, but not agreements on the best way to do that. The current government, though, is hinting the same thing as Australia could well be on the way here.
Because that's her. That's her on her phone and her on the news. The same. That's both of them.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
Look, isn't that clever? Oh my God, it's almost like technology. Wow.
Though, is hinting the same thing as Australia could well be on the way here.
Highly supportive, and I'll be monitoring it very closely. As you know, I feel very personally invested in actually ensuring that we ultimately deliver our own ban ourselves here in New Zealand.
We are sort of
why are we feeling so personally invested? That's a strange thing, eh? I'm very personally heavily invested in what teenagers do on their phones.
His children are adults.
Yeah.
So they're not affected.
Maybe he's trying to get control over David Seymour, and that's why he's personally invested in it. Maybe, just saying, allegedly. That's a joke, and my tongue is in my cheek, in case any lawyers are watching.
Here in New Zealand.
We are sort of fast followers of other countries around the world, so we'll be watching what's happening in Australia very closely. We're working
Well,
with
actually, I've seen some commentary today that goes, New Zealand is one of the places that normally leads these sorts of social things, and we're not followers normally. So even that in and of itself is a little bit of a testament to this government and how they, like Craig always says, do you feel back on track yet? That they've not even back on track yet. So yeah, it's interesting that she would say that about being a keen follower, because that's not New Zealand's role normally. As little as we are, we often lead.
around the world, so we'll be watching what's happening in Australia very closely. We're working with their officials, we're working with officials from the UK and other countries as well. Puts us in a really good spot.
We've got a drinking age, we've got a vaping age, we've got a driving age. Let's have a social media age where this empowers parents, because it also gives them the tools to be able to say, actually, it's not okay for you to be on social media.
The whole world's watching Australia because no one really knows what's going to happen, and there's good argument. It could actually make things worse if it drives children into worse parts of the internet and stops them wanting to talk to their parents about it.
Experts here say we need to do something.
We need to see the kind of laws that are happening offline, happening online. There's currently no accountability for platforms.
In Australia, they're hoping this will be the start of the good life and bring an end to the angst felt by parents watching their kids live their lives online.
This is going to be, everything's going to be okay now, apparently, Chewy. This is the start of the revolution. Look, I'll say it again. I used to play this piece of video. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. It was about 10 years ago. So it was the millennials where the Gen Zs are now.
Yeah, I remember.
Talks about millennials in the workplace. And it talks about, it fires off the same synapses as things like cocaine and alcohol and, pornography does. So it's addictive, and we don't just throw open our liquor cabinet to our teenagers, and you're doing that with phones. So, look, I get it, and I absolutely think that the culture of what it is needs to change, but I don't know if just going no to teenagers is the way to do it anymore.
Teenagers, famously compliant to authority figures.
Rule followers, famous. So I don't know. It just
this reeks of other previous moral panics about video games or comic books throughout the generation. Every generation has had something that their parents' generation are freaking out about because they don't fucking understand it. Like, I am all for governments getting together and teaming up on the social media companies to police content that's on their platforms, to clamp down on misinformation and that sort of thing. But I think Pete in the comments said this runs smack dab into a clause in a Bill of Rights about the free exchange and sourcing of information. Like, it makes no sense. Like, the way that this is implemented, and I've seen somewhat of a version of this that the UK had in place when I was over there. I went in to log into Reddit, and it said that I had to verify my age. And here is your way to do it. Scan a copy of your passport. Do a facial scan. Provide your credit card details. Now, this was to an international company whose job it was to do that. Now, how is that information retained? I don't know. What is the protection that's put on that information? I don't know. Like, this seems sloppy, and especially when you look at Australia, by specifically naming social media platforms. They leave it open for everybody that is not named.
Yeah.
It's incredibly poorly put together. It's dubious whether it's effective. And I don't think it puts the social media platforms and companies themselves on enough of a hook to do a better job. Like, how many times have you seen something really egregious on, say, Facebook, and you hit that little report button, and 3 weeks to 4 months later, you find out that they've had a look at it and actually, no, it doesn't breach community standards. And I have had that from some of the most racist content that I have seen, the most violent content I have seen on that platform, doesn't breach community standards. I have never had a successful report on Facebook, ever. It's only when I've participated in something that is a mass pile-on, an organised pile-on on something to get it gone, that it ever works. So these social media companies don't care. The amount of misinformation, fake ads and scams that propagate on Facebook, seemingly without any sort of smackdown, like especially with the older people getting fucking scammed. You know, there's something needs to be done about social media. That's the core problem. And these companies are too big and too rich that they can actually get to the point where they just go, fuck off, government of small country, I don't care. You know, they're fiddling around the edges. They're not solving a problem.
Yeah. And look, like you just said, social media sites will pop up around the place if they're not already popping up, that then just get around that ban. Then all of a sudden, what do they say? Yope or something will be the biggest one in Australia. And then that'll get added to the list and they'll go to another one. And I'm not being defeatist. I do believe that restrictions and stuff can be in place. But equally, when she started to say things like, well, they had that one of the MPs, I guess, we have a drink, the national MP, we have a drinking age and we have a driving age. And guess what? Teenagers ignore most of those. Teenagers drink before they're 18. You know, like, so what do you say? We've got all these rules in place, and it's like, yeah, that they don't follow. So it's not the solution to go, we're just going to say no, and they're going to do it. But I also want to say that there are numerous cases, like seeing I am an incredibly old person. You know, when I was at school in 1947, you'd get bullied at school, right? And then sort of that didn't really change, maybe the odd phone call to home. And then when the internet came out, you sort of, you could be accessed at home through email and stuff. But back in those days, you know, there was a family computer in a community space. And now it's just gone up another level, up another level, up another level, up another level. And now this is where you get bullied. So the thing you have in your pocket that you're addicted to that you can't not look at. Oh my God, the number of times I've said to my kids, we've been sitting having a family meeting, and I've said, turn your phone over, and made them do that so they couldn't see the screen lighting up.
No, see, Pat, that's where you're wrong. The government should tell you. The government should tell them. We want a nanny state. Remember, National famously loves a nanny state, and it's never gone mad.
Yeah.
You know, this is the whole thing, that this is a parent's job. A parent's job is to protect their kids, right? The state's job is to protect us from overseas corporations.
Yeah. Well, then,
so why is the government cracking down on what kids do?
Well, I guess what they might say is that. So there's legislation in America. I don't know what it's called, but basically it's all over the world. It says that a platform is not responsible for the content that gets put on it. Change that. How much moderating do you think there'd be if Twitter was legally responsible for the words that were put on Twitter? The problem with some of the, like a radio station, for example, is legally responsible for views and opinions shared on that radio station. So here's one way around it. We've just got a solution. Say to these social media platforms, say to websites, say to whatever else there is, you are now responsible for the content on your site, even if it's put on by a different person. That would be a way to police this, because as soon as the libel, the racism, the human rights violations, the bullying, whatever, then you make them ultimately responsible for it. It makes me think of, I can't remember where it was. It might have been somewhere like Denmark. We were having a conversation several years ago about, the protection that cyclists should have when they're on the road. And I can't remember which country it is, but it's one of the Scandinavian ones, I think. They basically just say straight out, the bigger your vehicle is, the more responsibility we will point at you when it comes to an accident. So if a truck runs into a car, they hold more responsibility with the truck. If a car and a bike, if there's an accident between the car and the bike, they hold, obviously other than extreme circumstances, but they give more responsibility to the car. So what does that mean with cars and bikes? Cars are fucking careful around bikes, like really careful, because they know if something happens within their legal system, they can be made more responsible, more liable, because it's the bigger, more deadly vehicle. So cars get held more responsible than bikes when it comes to, so the cars are much more careful. Can we make the social medias more, the social medias, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Bebos, do they still do Bebo? Can we make them more responsible than the user? If you put all the responsibility on them, the bigger entity, then maybe they'd be fucking careful because they wouldn't want to, quote, hit a bike. Maybe.
Slight tangent, but the EU levelled a fine at Twitter the other day, and it was something like $102 million fine for not doing enough to police or stop blatant misinformation on their platform. And it made the world's richest man have a tantrum like no one has ever seen before, that literally had him calling for the dissolution of the entire EU.
I've seen some of the tweets going around about the EU in the last while. I didn't know that was the origin story.
Yeah,
that's really funny.
Yeah, that's why. So imagine that. You're the world's richest person, possibly the world's first trillionaire soon, and you're bitching about $102 million fine. That's like your average household getting like a $20 fine. So look, these social media oligarchs and that sort of thing have done irreparable damage. Like, for every good aspect, right? It has connected communities around the world. It's let very isolated people find their communities and find their people. It's had the free flow of information, free of the state and free of traditional media channels. All of those are good things. All of those have a darker side as well.
Yeah.
Like for every lonely gay or trans kid that finds out that he's not an alien from another planet and there are people like him, there are some very damaged people finding out that actually the Nazis did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of state-sponsored propaganda along with the free flow of information from alternative methods.
And probably when that gay or trans kid does find that community, he also being on that same social media then opens him or herself up to a billion times the abuse from that same social media that they found their community from.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the world becoming smaller and people finding out more about themselves and others, right? But at the moment, all of those high ideals of what social media could and should be is completely supplanted by some of the world's creepiest, richest people going, well, this is a hell of a way to make money. All of these people are my products. I'm going to sell their information. I'm going to advertise to them, and I'm not going to be particularly picky about the standards that I have on my platform, on my bulletin board to the world. I don't care if someone comes up and staples a Nazi rally sign to it. You know, these are things that the government should be concerned about. 100%. I think pointing it at kids and going, you know, you should be effectively punished for this, because getting Mark Zuckerberg to stop radicalizing lonely, damaged people, old people, you know, creating pipelines of access for scammers to remove money from them, that sort of thing. That's all too hard. We don't know how to do it. But let's have a moral panic idea about 16-year-olds, and let's create a massive vector for, you know, identity theft or all of those things as well. And I don't trust anyone in the government to actually look at this with some nuance. It is going to be killing a fly with a sledgehammer, the most clumsy way possible, just like the Americans have.
It also just makes me think, as you're speaking of that, what's his name? Tristan Harris. Tristan Harris is a computer scientist who coined the phrase, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Yeah.
100%. What you're doing. And also,
Facebook makes a lot of sense if you keep that in mind.
Yeah. Just in case people were wondering, this is the clip I was talking about. The guy's name is Simon Sinek. It's, as you can see, it's 9 years old. I watched this clip maybe 10 times with my teenagers. From about 8 minutes in, he talks about what social media, the impact of social media on the brain. It's really, really worth a watch. We're not going to play it because I think we have played it once before and it got us... I had to remove it from YouTube because we're breaking copyright. But Simon Sinek on millennials in the workplace, obviously 10 years ago. Really worth a watch with your young people who are on social media. Right. Citizen Gold says, so instead of legislating that the social media companies fix their algos, they punish the kids instead. Yeah, I guess it's the same sort of thing. I actually think, I was sitting here, you know, sometimes there's three kinds of people in the world. There are people who think before they speak, there are people who think as they speak, and there are our personal favourites, those ones who think after they speak. I think I'm a think as they speak kind of person, because that idea that we were just talking out, I'm sitting here now going, that's a really fucking good solution. If we just take away the ability for a social media platform to go, oh, we didn't say it, we're just providing the platform for it. It's like kind of going, well, you know, yeah, those people came to my house and they committed crimes inside my house, but I've got no responsibility whatsoever to them being in my house committing crimes. They were using my phone I've got no, it doesn't seem to be how the world works in other places. I think if anyone wanted to really seriously look at this, make the social media platforms responsible for the content on their platform, like a radio station is, like a television network is. It is sort of the new TV. You know, the internet, social media. Waiheke says, where are their fucking parents? My 13-year-old has parental control on his phone and has no presence on social media. He's too young, in my opinion. Respect you, Waiheke, and your thoughts around that. We did something similar. Eventually, it goes away. Like we had a bit of a rule in our household that our kids didn't get phones till secondary school, and when they had secondary school, we used a product called, I can't think what it's called, but it was like you could turn your kid's phone off and yada yada yada. And recently, my 19-year-old told me that they knew how to get around it. They were like, Dad, if you just turn the phone off and turn it back on again, you can get about 2 minutes of use. And so they worked it all out. But still, there still comes a point where they're not mature enough to be able to handle it, where they will have the freedoms, whether that's 15 or 16 or 17, even 18, without that frontal lobe developing, which primarily assesses risk, which is sort of early to mid-20s, depending on how mature the kid is. They will still be put in a point at some stage that they will, they'll face it full on with no restrictions. It'll happen.
I mean, there's already reports of, I believe, because it says, upload a picture, a facial scan to prove your age sort of thing. Someone just uploaded a picture of a dog and was approved. Like
your brother?
Like this,
what about
this,
your 18-year-old brother? Look on there for me, bro. Chip.
Yeah.
You can probably get a picture out of a magazine. Just hold it in front of the camera.
You have a whole database of people's faces for a start, which is fucking weird. Just as a kind of a nice aside, I was speaking to an older couple at work today, and I think we were talking about England because we'd both spent some time over there recently, and how their friends were like, "Oh, where are you staying in England? Oh, you're staying in this place. Oh, I heard it's a war zone. You can't walk anywhere out night as a
the refugees, the
refugees, the boats, and all of that sort of stuff." And they were like, "It's a lovely little town near the coast. We went walking at night all the time." Like, and they said that there are a lot of their generation that just don't have the critical thinking skills to be online and to evaluate whether someone has an agenda or whether the information's fake or whether it's AI, all of that sort of stuff. And just to hear that from someone of that generation going, "Oh yeah, a lot of people in our generation are cooked because they don't go anywhere. They end up in an algorithm that they don't understand. They don't even know what an algorithm is. They just assume that all information has an equal chance to reach them. And when you try to explain that, well, no, actually, they just keep on feeding you stuff that you like, that you interact with them, and it kind of shakes them. Because they grew up with newspapers.
Yeah.
They grew up with the 6 p.m. news, where they tried to be balanced, and these new media companies, they don't try to be.
It does also always make me think, that kind of conversation around when we're 70, what are we going to be unaware of, like 70-year-olds today?
How incredibly optimistic of you, Pat. I'm
Thanks.
going to be roaming the wasteland, looking for the last drops of potable water.
I think Fallout started again today, didn't it? The new series of Fallout. I think that was on today.
Has it?
I think so. I think I noticed it. Pete says, I don't want to provide my government ID to use services. Arvid says, The Good Life, famously a show about demons convincing people in the afterlife they're in a good place when they're in the bad place. How accurate. The Good Life. When I first read The Good Life, I thought it was that 70s sitcom. Dun, 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 dun. Is that the same? Dun, dun, dun,
Pat's real old, people. Pat's real old.
And I've seen both of them. But is that The Good Life as well? And those guys who turned their back garden into a veggie patch and stuff, they quit the rat race?
Yeah, my nana used to watch it, Pat.
Shut up,
You guys should
Dick.
talk about it.
Oak Howe, thank you for the super chat, very generous, all of you so far. Actual international agreements to have regulations would do 100 times more than trying to ban it. A VPN is a simple bypass to this ban. Yep. No, I think we've just solved that problem. Now, can someone please action it? Get Craig back on the phone. You can action it for us. Right. Let's have a look at the last story of the day, because last night, Chewy, was it last night? No, it wasn't. It was Monday night. We did this together. We talked about the polls. We talked about how there's a bad poll for the left bloc going into the holiday season, and we pondered the idea, was this a start of a trend? Do we need to pay attention to it? Or was this a blip? Was this an anomaly? New polling out today, obviously from a different source. It's the Taxpayers Union Curia poll. Labour remains the most popular party in the poll, but the coalition could still govern. I think the trends, right, the general trends for the poll this year are Labour and National have been neck and neck, and National's had just enough to govern. I think that would be a pretty fair flatline trend for this year. So the one on Monday, which had Labour basically with a 14-seat majority, is the outlier. What we need to see is what will that continue or not into next year. So I'm pretty confident in saying a 14-seat majority is a massive outlier at the moment. It's not good going into the holidays with that, but that feels off to me based on other ones. So the Greens gained about as much as Labour dropped in this one. New Zealand First dropped by 1 percentage point, has Labour on 31.6 with 41 seats. National on 30%, so neck and neck. Greens 10.8, and what were they? 7 in that other poll. ACT on 8.9, and they were up at double figures. New Zealand First 8.1, I think they were close to double figures as well. And Te Pāti Māori 3.1. I think the thing we should also remember about Te Pāti Māori is their party vote means nothing. They win electorate seats or they don't exist. So their party it's almost like, the party vote is pointless because they will either win the seats, the Māori seats, or they won't be in Parliament. So whether they're on 1% or 3.8%, it doesn't really matter. It mattered at 12 months ago when they were on 7%. That would have made a difference. But generally, Te Pāti Māori, the percentage they have for the party vote is pretty pointless. The second part of that story we just watched with Craig actually talks about the polling, and there's a bit more about the cost of living and what people were talking about in the polls. So let's get to the second half of that story, and then we can wrap up.
Cost of living.
A new Taxpayers Union Curia poll shows cost of living concern has soared ahead of Christmas. It remains the most important issue, jumping 4.1 points to 32.6%.
What I don't quite understand, Chewy, is it says cost of living and economy. Surely they kind of almost go hand in hand, don't they? So does that basically mean we can go basically 47% of the vote, of the voting issues, basically half is around money and how it's spent within our economy. So that's half of the concerns are basically money orientated.
Yeah, I think the reason that people separate those two things is I guess cost of living is a lot more immediate. How much your groceries,
my
fuel
money
costs, and
my
that
money
sort of thing. And then the economy is look. It's too big for me to understand. That's a government thing, but I can
government
tell
money.
The government's being good with it or not good with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a good way to look at it, but it still has to do with money because even the economy money, government money is still our money. But yeah, cost of living, my money, economy, government money is probably the separation. But still, when it comes down to it, it's all our money. I guess what I'm saying is financial issues are 50%, close to 50% of the issues that people are talking about on the Taxpayer Curia poll.
Followed by the economy on 14.8% and health on 9.4%. Meanwhile, Labour remains the most popular political party on 31.6% compared to National on 30%. Among the supporting parties, the Greens saw the biggest jump to 10.8%.
Does that give you a sense that perhaps your government hasn't gone far enough in fixing the cost of living crisis? Well, the way that we fix it is we actually get on top of spending, we get on top of inflation and interest.
I'm just a word of warning. He should never use the term on top of. It's not inappropriate, especially looking at that face. Just stop it. Not again.
Living crisis. Well, the way that we fix it is we actually get on top of spending, we get on top of inflation and interest rates as we've been doing. But I think most Kiwis that I talk to, are saying that they sense that the economy is changing, it's strengthening.
The Taxpayers Union doesn't see it that way, with the government spending more than it's making and net debt now sitting at $186.5 billion.
The government were elected on the basis to tackle Labor's 33% increase in the core public service. They've reduced it by less than 1%.
The Taxpayers Union is chaired by former Finance Minister Ruth Richardson, and so Nicola Willis has challenged her to a debate.
Did you not realise that Ruth Richardson is also
Finance Minister Ruth Richardson
making money as a Flavor Flav tribute act at the moment? So that's what Ruth Richardson's about.
Looks like a road cone.
Boy, she's Flavor Flav, and that would make the guys in the background heavy D, I guess. But we'll keep moving.
And so Nicola Willis has challenged her to a debate to set the record straight.
I really want the chance to defend our government.
But getting the books in order could be a bit more challenging for the Finance Minister if the Reserve Bank is indeed done with cash rate cuts and Kiwis respond by being careful with their spending.
Kia ora.
That'll do. Well, I say kia ora to you because we're basically done. Yeah, interesting that the cost of living is still the big one. Yeah, thoughts, Chewy?
Look, it's 100% cost of living. I've said before, like the biggest target there, if you wanted to get people on side, well, top two targets, right? One you can't have a lot of effect on, the Aussie banks. You could pump more money into Kiwi banks so they become more of an option for home lending for New Zealanders. At the moment, they get smoked by every Aussie bank. So where's another target that you could have a big effect on how much money people have is our supermarket duopoly. And Labour came up with an idea and they did nothing with it, and then Nationals just fucking ignored it. They've done nothing that affects every single one of us, how much we pay for our groceries.
I think the thing that I have most enjoyed is the wrong word. The thing that you've said of recent times that makes me feel like that we're most on track is this idea about Labour needing to be more bold. National and the other guys have come in and my mum would call them rip, shit and bust. Labour needs to come in and match that energy if they want to actually drag people. They need to excite. They need to give people a reason to vote for them. They actually either need to do it themselves or they need to enable through actual talking with and getting involved with the Greens to do it. The Greens can be the attack dogs, but someone needs to do it because at the minute, the last few things that have come out, not saying that they're bad policies, but they're not, it's still that idea of if they go low, we'll go high. Michelle Obama is actually no. If they're going to go low, I'm not saying you got to go lower, but you got to deal with them being low. Right? There's no moral high ground here. And also, in case people, just one thing, in case people were wondering, it's a very important part. Who Flavor Flav was and why we think that's the case. There's side by side.
I just having a conversation in the chat. Somebody said I'd love to see Ruth Richardson wearing a big clock, and I replied, the clock would have to be counting down.
Well done. I see what you did there. Sorry, Joe. So anyway, your thoughts, if any.
Yeah. Look, I would love if any party wants to solve the cost of living crisis, they can do it.
Of course.
Right. As far as the issues that are facing New Zealand at the moment, the big pain point is how much it costs to get their groceries, how much everything costs. That's why everybody is worried about the cost of living. The next biggest thing, the cab off the ranks, that would affect that is the housing market and how our economy is. It's an albatross around our neck how much money is in the housing in this country and how much it locks people out of having something that gives them security in their later life. That is big stuff. And I think everybody's fiddling around the edges of it. Look, have we mentioned who we've got on the show next Tuesday? Is that a secret?
It's not a secret. We have talked about it.
Okay. These are things I'd love to bring up with Chris Hipkins on Tuesday.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how we go. Because here we are. Like, if you could believe the comments on Facebook and YouTube, Pat and I are the biggest Labour shills in the world. Okay, we're on the books. We get paid with red money. But I voted Green last time round. I'm going to vote Green again unless something fucking dramatic happens, which is super, super unlikely. Pat has also voted Green and has a lot of criticism of the Labour Party, but we still have Labour Party people on because we're on the left. But this is one of the criticisms that we have is like policies that mean that doctors can buy into a practice with a low interest loan is not a big sexy. That's not going to convince me to cross the aisle. I doubt it's going to convince many national voters to come across to Labour. You need to look at the issues that are affecting everybody. Like, you need to accept that no matter what you do, even if it comes down to whether you do it or not, the government, the other side, is going to say that you are going to do it. Like the amount of attack ads that are aiming at Hipkins when he has done his fucking level best to say, hey, look, this is a limited capital gains tax. We don't have any plans for anything else. National's running ads like, yeah, but he's lying. Like, he's definitely going to. Can you trust him? So just fucking do it. Just do it. Well, comprehensive capital gains tax, inheritance tax, whatever. And then just tell people what you're fucking buying with that money. You are going to buy the biggest orgy of home building that we have seen since the 1940s. We are going to have so many doctors, you get sick, six of them are going to come to their house and fist fight you for the right to treat you into health. You know, tell them that you're buying that, and then point at the Mowbrays, the Graham Hart, the people up on the hill with all the money, and say, it's them. They're going to pay for it, because this is how we did it in the past. This is how we built roads and hospitals. We taxed people that had a lot of money. And you know what? They were happy to do it because they had an educated, healthy workforce that wasn't actively planning their demise. It's good for everyone.
I hadn't queued this up to show, but just based on what you said, what people think of us, I think I'll show this. Yesterday, Chewy, there was legislation passed described as the undisclosed bill. So the opposition did not know what was being voted for until the minister got up to speak. Mm. And so we live in this place where everyone should agree that a well-functioning opposition is essential in a democracy. If you're not giving the information to the opposition for them to function well, then you are hurting our democracy. So I put up a post yesterday that said this. This is on Twitter. Hello, fellow patriots. I'm going to use that from now on because they hate it. Hello, fellow patriots, even the crunchy ones. Did you know that at 3:30 p.m. today, the government is introducing an undisclosed bill, which, as the title suggests, means no one knows what it is, etc., etc., etc. One of their responses, you are not a patriot. You are a far-right extremist. Your show is not good for the most vulnerable mental health. Your show pushes the trans agenda.
Oh, it's Twitter. Okay.
You lie and twist every bloody night. Marxist propaganda 101, instill fear, oldest trick in the book. And it goes on. So what I've just done is I've gone, if you're making accusations against us, then the onus is on you to provide evidence of your claims. Please provide any evidence for us being, quote, far left extremists, pushing the trans agenda, lies, sharing Marxist propaganda, or withdraw and apologise for inaccuracies for one, some, or all of your claims. Ironically, have heard nothing back. So yes,
the trans agenda. You mean the right to exist?
Yeah, the right for them to be on the bottom of all the stats for the rest of time. That one. So
actually, Pat, if I could squeeze in something right here at the end of the show,
you should rephrase it.
I'm going to squeeze in just the tip. Speaking of the right to exist, can you put the image up? We haven't checked in on what the Israelis are up to lately. So this is our favourite psychopath, Ben Gvir. They're wearing lapel pins of nooses now. That's cool and normal. Israeli politicians wore noose pins to support a bill allowing the execution of imprisoned Palestinians. Bill supported by Israeli Security Minister Ben-Gvir would allow the death penalty for Palestinians accused of killing Israelis on nationalistic grounds. But the law would not apply to Israelis that kill Palestinians, because of course not. Israeli forces and settlers have killed at least 227 Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. That's not the Gaza Strip, the place where the war is. There's a West Bank, which is just occupied. At least, almost 1,700 settler attacks on Palestinians have been reported this year. That's an average of 5 per day. Ben-Gvir is the leader of the far-right Otzma Yehut party. He's a convicted racist. Was one of the most senior members of Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet. He supports all of the illegal settlements in Gaza and the West Bank. And here's a fun fact. He was so racist and extreme, the IDF didn't want him. Too unstable. But now he's Israeli's national security minister. He's responsible for Israeli police and prisons. Over 110 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli prisons. That's something we don't hear of often. And there's widespread reports of torture. Since he's been appointed, 110 Palestinians killed since he's been appointed.
So as always, Chewy, I hear a fact and I want to check it because you know me. I want to make sure that we're not spreading fake news. Fake news. And that was Al Jazeera. So, of course, what people are going to do is say, nah, fake news. So here's a similar story from an Israeli site. Minister wears yellow newspin to promote terrorist execution. So there you go. It's obviously they're using different terminology. They're calling them just, if you're Palestinian, you are by definition a terrorist, but there is confirmation, if anyone wonders, if anyone's out there going to have a crack straight away, go, Al Jazeera, Israel Hayom.
He'll fucking
newspaper.
tell you to his face. There's recordings of him saying these things. He does not give a fuck what anybody thinks about him.
Yeah, but I'm just basically cutting off at the knees any pushback, just to show you on a couple of where it's come from.
100%. He's so sure of his position that he's not trying to hide any of it, which is because nothing's going to happen to him. Wearing a noose pin. Jesus Christ.
It's a funny word you'd end with at the end there. Got a little bit of a connection to the Israeli world, that guy had apparently. He just said those words at the end.
He got nailed to a tree for telling people to be nice to each other. So there we go. That's that part of the world.
Yep.
Moving on.
Talk about polls. When was Poland in the news?
There is an amazing clip of a US Defense Force spokesperson being asked by a reporter whether a US Army captain or a major who got abducted by 2 Polish strippers, he got beaten and bitten, and he got asked whether that would affect US relations with Poland. And this guy trying to hold it together to answer that question seriously is amazing.
We might have to have a look at it. Also got Kiwi Planner saying, I'm not a top fan, but I'd love to see them polling higher for more diversity. Maybe. We've already had the leader of Top on, and my concerns with Top are, if you are a jack of all trades, you're a master of none. If you can sit in the middle and go left or right, then what it might end up happening is you might end up supporting policy that we disagree. If I put you into Parliament, I know where you. I want to know where you're pretty much going to be on these issues, and that's been one of the problems with supporters of National this time around. Because as Bomber always says, a lot of the people who voted for National didn't vote for what's fucking going on now. They didn't vote for this. And the problem with voting in Top, this is just an opinion of mine, you vote for if you want to, is that if you are someone who sits on the left, or if you're someone who sits on the right and you vote them in, and then they go and put through policy from the other group that you disagree with, that's the only thing I have a problem with me voting for Top. You do whatever the fuck you want. Kiwi Planner, still though, good for business equals bad for workers. Another one from Kiwi Planner, Alliance would be indefinitely better than Top though. Yep, I would agree with that. Over Red Rover, if I wasn't super chatting, I'd be donating to Labour. I don't know how I feel about that, but very good. And another one over Red Rover, I think for $5, the rich happily pay taxes. The rich happily paying taxes are silent generation fought in World War I and II. Those complaining are their children. Would there be many? I mean, not to be too depressing, but there probably isn't many left from World War II. I mean, to be in world, the oldest you'd have been is 18 in 1944. I mean, I know some lied, but in general. So that means you were born in 1926. So you are 94, 95. I mean, they'll be around, but there won't be many, if any, as Scribe said. But yep, I hear what you're saying. But the point about it still being their children, I think, is completely fair. And finally, I think, well, finally for now, top, more like flip-flop. Flip-flops. I haven't done this much this week, which is fine. I just wanted to say a huge thanks to our patrons and people who are involved in what we do. I have meetings tomorrow looking at things for next year around travelling around the country, around doing potentially town halls or debates or panel conversations or something like that. I haven't really talked too much about it. And the people who enable those things to happen are our patrons. Wanted to say as well, Chewy, we had a little objective for Christmas to get to 500 patrons. We are at 495 at the moment.
Oh, it's so close.
And I know I said this last night, within the next 24 hours, I was wrong and I've lied to you, so I will do it straight after the show. We are having the last meetup for the year this weekend, and I'm writing it down on my notes here to remind myself to send it off to people. After the show's finished tonight, I'll be sending out an invite to all of our patrons to come and do a meetup this weekend. It'll be the last one for the year. Saturday morning, I think it's normally 11 o'clock. We do it, I think, from memory. And don't nod, Jill. You don't know what time we do them. Come on, brother. Let's not be silly about this. And that'll be that. So thanks to the people who have signed up over the last wee while. We've probably had about 30 join us in the last month or so, which is amazing. And just again, remember, if you want to be a part of us, if you are, Kiwi Skirt's telling me, yes, Pat, 11 a.m. as usual. Good, thank you. Appreciate that someone out there knows. If you want to be a part of what we do, the only thing we're asking, and not to be like, we want as much out of you as possible, is that you pick a level that you can sustain for a full 12 months. Because as I've just said, what we're planning next year, if we want to plan for October, July, August next year, it's good to know where sort of our minimum investment can be based on the patrons that we have. That's it. All right, Chewy, anything else from that? Do we need to cover off on anything else?
No, that's everything. We've solved everything.
Remember, this weekend there is a The Collective on Saturday evening that will be up this weekend.
And remember, if you are watching The Collective, that infuriates Annie O'Brien. So please tell everybody you're doing it, and please spread the videos around. She hates it.
Are you just saying that because she hates everything we do, or do you know something about what's going on?
Oh, she took a big swing at Jordan and Bree for apparently very close ties to Labour because Jordan volunteers at something to do with Labour. I don't know, but yeah, it's all a big conspiracy. But in that same article, us two, Pat and Chewy, people that started this, not mentioned at all, which has infuriated me. So Annie O'Brien has made a powerful enemy this evening.
Someone said Saturday, not Sunday. I'm guessing I just said Saturday evening because everyone's saying Sunday, Pat. And Saturday, not Sunday? Yes, Sunday evening. I apologise if I said Saturday. Sunday evening, 7 p.m, which will be the regular time slot for it when it comes back next year. On a monthly basis to start off with. It might go to fortnightly closer to the election, but that's going to be up to the guys who are in charge, which is not me.
Look, go easy on old Pat, you know? Like, the days of the week are difficult. He used to watch the, what is it, The Good Life? See, still remembers the theme song, though.
And there was a little buzzy bee that came out and went around the thing.
Yeah.
Animation.
See, so he's still got it. He's still got those past memories. He just can't form new ones.
What? We're talking about me.
Yeah, don't go on Facebook. You'll get scammed.
You're talking about me without me. Is that what they say? Something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, team. Bomber's going to join us tomorrow night. In fact, one of the guys, I'm not sure who yet, but one of the guys from the collective will be along tomorrow night as well, just for a quick chat to tell us what it's all about. And other than that, I think we're pretty much done for the night, shall we? I feel like we should get out of here, which means we've got one more to go tomorrow night, and then we're into our last 3 shows. Oh my goodness gracious me. Can gift subscription as a gift to someone? Can gift subscription as a gift to someone? I guess that's saying a subscription to us. The only thing we do at the moment is Patreon. We've talked about subscriptions or memberships for YouTube, but at the moment, I don't think we do a I shouldn't be sounding so unlike not having that. I don't think we do subscription. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't know. Ask Chewy. He knows what's going on. Apparently, I'm from 1943. That's where I come from, apparently.
Do you remember
team.
the war?
You remember it better than me because it's your thing, not mine, because you were there. I just made an old joke about you. Yeah. Hey. And we'll see you tomorrow night.
You could buy 4 onions for 60 pence.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war puff to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, neither this way or that, and will be analyzed by both Chewy and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
I think that's it from me. I need to go put my slippers on, get my pipe apparently, maybe have a bit of a sherry and a hot glass of milk before the nursemaid puts me to bed. That's the vibe I'm getting, Chewy.
Good. That's a good vibe.
Yeah.
Lovely, cozy bed. Slippers.
All right. Catch you tomorrow night, team. We'll see you from 9 for the next edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.